All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of From One to Wicked. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm JT Timmons.
And we have a super fun episode today. This one is going to be about a spirit from a country that we both really like a lot. We've never visited, but
I want to visit so bad.
Yes, so we're going to be talking about Yama-Uba from Japan.
Woo woo.
Yeah, so JT and I have both been really fascinated by Japanese culture for a really long time.
I feel like most Americans are.
Yeah, well, it's such a cool country, and it's so beautiful. They have such a rich spiritual culture and things of that nature. So this was a really fun one to research. Yeah, fun fact, JT and I originally were going to go to Japan for our honeymoon before the world shut down.
But instead, we went to go see Bloody Mackenzie.
Yes, we went to Scotland instead.
Which was the last episode.
Yes, but eventually we will make it over to Japan and hopefully not encounter Yama-Uba because personally, she's a little freaky.
Is she bad?
She's interesting.
Oh, boy.
You'll see. So we'll dive right on into it. But Yama-Uba, just for you guys to know what her name means, it literally translates to mountain witch or mountain ogress. Oh. There are a few different ways of...
So you.
Yes, absolutely. I am a Yama-Uba. No, I'm just kidding. I am not that. But there are a few different names that are given to her depending on what region you're in. And I've noticed this a lot with the Japanese folklore that I was reading about. It does vary in different slight minute changes depending on what section you are in Japan. But we're going to go with the general consensus here of what Yama-Uba is from a lot of those different regions. But Yama-Uba is a old hag or a witch that lives in the Japanese mountains in a little hut. And she also lives in forests. JT's looking at me like, this is you.
This is her.
Yes. But they were once human, but became corrupted and transformed into monsters. Some sport fangs and horns, but most oftenly, Yama-Uba looks just like an ordinary, kind old lady with no sign of evil nature until she attacks you.
Ooh,
yes.
That's creepy.
Yeah, she's usually very old. She has wild white hair. We'll insert a photo that I have here of like a drawing of a Yama-Uba.
Okay.
But... yeah, she usually has like this crazy white hair that hangs down to her shoulders and her face is very thin. And some different aspects of Yama-Uba that she's able to do that not a lot of people realize is that she can become invisible. Mm-hmm. And she also is known to fly and suck blood.
Wow. So this honestly reminds me a ton of the Black Eyed Children.
A little bit.
Like they're... It's a demon that or monster or a spirit that makes themselves look innocent to gain your trust and turn your back, and then it just destroys you.
Very much so.
Interesting.
Yama-Uba in Japanese culture has been considered a demon. Mm-hmm. That's what they call her, at least. And so I think it correlates back to a lot of different mythology and folklore when it comes to demons, because demons are kind of notorious for showing themselves as something innocent, something trustworthy. Yeah. Because if, like I said in the last episode briefly, you know, if they come at you with their fangs and their horns or something, you're not going to trust them to do things that they're going to make deals with them. So, you know, of course they're going to look sweet and like a little grandma that just wants to give you an apple, you know?
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
She's not giving people apples. That was just like a Snow White reference, but you know.
Yeah. No, I get it.
But yeah, so her origin is it's varying, like I said, depending on what region that you are from. But some of the latest or like the earliest writings or records of Yama-Uba are like in the 1300s, like early 1300s.
This is like an ancient demon.
Very much so. But yeah, so basically, Yama-Ubas are created when young women accused of crimes or wicked deeds flee into the wilderness and live in exile. Oh. And the women transform gradually over the years into mountain witches. In some cases, their origin can be explained by an old custom from times of famine or economic hardship. When it became impossible to feed everyone, families had to make a hard choice: remove one family member so that the rest can survive. Often the sacrifice chosen was the newly born or the elderly.
Oh, wow.
And some, yes, as you're...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just find that really like cinematic.
It is. It
like,
is.
Like this would be a great film.
Absolutely.
I wonder if they've made a film in Japan about this already, because
I don't think so, because I didn't see any when I was researching Yama-Uba. Like there's some really good documents on it. Like one of the references that I used was like actually from like I think it was a PhD student from Colorado who did like a thesis on
one of us.
Yes. Yeah, I know the Westerners doing a thesis on Yama-Uba, but I don't.
No,
know
I was
who
gonna
this
say just
person
like
was.
someone who's like super interested in it,
Yes.
like us.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I didn't see anything that looked like they were talking about making a movie, or if there was a movie made. There is children's books about Yama-Uba, because Yama-Uba also is kind of used as a creature to scare children into behaving, because
That's literally what we do in every culture.
I know.
We choose the scariest thing we got, and we're like, they're gonna get you if you don't go to sleep.
Exactly. They're like, if you stay out in the wilderness too long, Yama-Uba's gonna come get you and she's gonna eat you.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, so basically, some families would lead their mothers deep into the woods and left them there to die. And these abandoned old women, either out of rage or desperation, transformed into horrible monsters that fed on humans and practiced dark magic.
Wow. So how did you like in your research? Did it say how the transition happened?
No,
or was it just a slow grueling?
It's basically a gradual transformation. The longer they stay in the woods, basically they just continue to transform into these.
That makes me think that there's something out there that's transforming them. Like, I don't think that, if like there have been plenty of people that have been exiled and lived in the woods and didn't become demons. I think there's something out there in the Japanese wilderness that is something even more ancient, possibly the ultimate
demonic entity.
Well, Yama-Uba,
the boss Yama-Uba.
The boss Yama-Uba,
yeah.
who literally maybe what this entity does is like, no one loves the young woman who's been exiled, but I will take you in. And there's this like ultimate trust that happens there, because the Yama-Uba is the only thing treating her with kindness. Now, this is totally speculation.
Well, that's interesting that you bring that up, because there is things that have said that Yama-Ubas can be very motherly at times. So it's interesting that you bring that up. But let's go a little bit further into it, though. So, like I said, they live in the huts deep in the forest, and basically they are known to have travelers that are lost in the wilderness and offer them shelter, food, and a place to sleep. Kind of like in Jack and Jill, she reminds me a lot. The witch.
God, why did I think about the Adam Sandler film right there?
Yeah, right. But and late at night, when their guests are fast asleep, Yama-Uba transformed into her true shape, an ugly old demonic witch.
Ooh.
And when she's revealed, they try to catch and eat their guests, often using powerful magic.
That's fun.
And stories of encounters with Yama-Uba have been spread by those few travelers lucky enough to escape. And these tales were passed along for generations until they came to be told as bedtime stories for disobedient children.
I would turn this into a killer movie.
Absolutely.
Give me like $6 million, and I we'll go to Japan and make a Yama-Uba movie, because this is like such, I'm like visualizing these like grandiose landscapes, and just this woman being exiled for something crazy.
Minuscule. Well, usually,
minuscule.
Because honestly, it really wasn't as common for them to be exiled for crimes or things like that. A lot of times it was because of the fact that they needed to get rid of a family member to continue eating. It was brutal.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's a dope origin story.
Yeah.
Can't get over it.
It really is. Also, a fun fact about Yama-Uba, she did inspire the Pokemon Jinx. Yeah.
No way.
Yes. She inspired that Pokemon.
Wow. That is, bless you. That is crazy.
Yeah, isn't that insane?
I can picture Jinx right now. Not even close to what I thought.
What you
Yama-Uba
thought,
look like, but
right?
okay.
But
That's kind of dope.
So, a lot of people like to believe in Japanese culture that the mountains are the dwelling place for the dead, spirits, and ancestors.
Okay.
So it makes a lot of sense why it would be in the wilderness that Yama-Uba would reside.
Okay.
And I think that it comes with kind of just a fear of, what is unknown. The forests and the mountains have always been a place, no matter where you are, where people always have a little bit of a weariness to them.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
there could be things that are lurking in the darkness or behind trees and you don't know it. But a lot of times they would bury their dead out in the forest. So
oh, really?
So it makes sense that, there's still plenty of forest spirits that are,
Yeah, don't tell Logan Paul.
Oh God. Oof. Yeah, we'll get into that in a second. But
no way, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Aokigahara has a little bit of a connection to this. It was very disrespectful. Stupidity. That's what that is. That is just pure stupidity. But in tales, ones attacked by Yama-Uba are typically travelers, merchants such as ox drivers, horse drivers, coopers, and notions keepers who often walk along mountain paths and encounter people in the mountains. So they are thought to be the ones who had spread the tales of Yama-Uba.
Okay.
Now, Yama-Uba has been described in a few different ways. Interestingly enough, in the earliest tellings of Yama-Uba, Yama-Uba was actually a male, which is interesting.
That is interesting.
But at one point started transforming into a female in folklore. So sometimes you do see Yama-Uba as genderless, but a lot of people, if you're looking at it from an analytical kind of perspective, a lot of people like to think that the gender change happened with the persecution of women.
Yeah.
During a few of the dynasties, eras.
Okay.
In Japan. And so basically they believed that women were being persecuted for trying to learn and trying to gain knowledge, and they were persecuted as witches and whatnot. And so they were trying to get women to stop because they're you'll turn into a Yama-Uba if you practice witchcraft, basically.
Okay.
That's just some of what I've read. But
Madison's okay.
You're right.
I'm gonna practice it more then.
Yeah, there are tales of where men were stalking oxes with fish for delivery. They would encounter Yama-Uba at the capes and got chased by them. And then in a book called Kuwazu Jobo, there was a tale where someone who was chased by Yama-Uba would climb a chain appearing from the skies in order to flee. When the Yama-Uba tried to make chase by climbing the chain too, she fell to her death into a field of buckwheat. And then in these tales, the Yama-Uba was a fearsome monster trying to eat humans. Because still to this day, no matter what region you're in, she kind of has the connotation that she is a man-eater of sorts.
Sure.
And that could also come with the misogyny of history too, where she started to become listed as a man-eater. Yeah. To be oh, these evil women, they eat men and things like that.
Some men deserve to be eaten.
Yeah, some do. And a lot of times with entities, and we've talked about this, is when you attach a certain story to them, they become that.
Sure.
Especially entities that don't have an identity of sorts. So maybe that's why she is so commonly now seen as someone who eats her victims and things of that nature. Okay. There's another story too of a young pregnant woman who secretly gives birth in the mountains, in a mountain hut, and seemingly a kind woman comes up to her, only to discover that she is actually an oni, which is what Yama-Uba originally was.
Okay. I know onis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who plans to eat the newborn baby. And as the name Yama-Uba was not yet coined at the time, any kind of anthropophagus, type of creature, being regardless of sex, was called an oni.
Okay.
Yeah. Because that is from like super, super long time periods ago. They were all kind of catch-all term was oni.
Sure.
But on the other hand, there were tales such as the Nakafuki Komefuku. Excuse my pronunciation. I'm positive I'm probably saying that wrong. There were two sisters out gathering fruit who met a Yama-Uba who gave treasure to the kind older sister who was tormented by her stepmother and gave the misfortune to the ill-mannered younger sister. And then in another region of Japan, there is the Ubakawa tale where a Yama-Uba would give a human good fortune. And in Aichi Prefecture, there is a legend that the house possessed by a Yama-Uba would quickly gain wealth and fortune. And some families have deified these as protective gods.
Oh, wow.
So there are some it's so vast, which is why it's a little tricky to nail down, because you have prefectures like that where they believe Yama-Uba is a good thing, that she brings wealth, that she's a protecting sort of thing. But then you have some places that are like, they believe that Yama-Uba mostly deals with children. And so if
she sounds like a dark deity. Kind of like La Madremonte.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. I know she is classified as a Japanese demon, but I don't know if she is super malevolent in the way that she just kills for no reason.
Yeah, no, she definitely doesn't kill for no reason.
Yeah.
She definitely doesn't kill for... I mean, does she only kill men?
No, she doesn't only kill men.
Because I remember newborn baby...
Yeah, she kills newborn babies. She likes to eat newborns.
Yeah, that's going to bring my rating up a little bit here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, but she does tend to kill men because they're the ones that are encountering people who are on the pathways that she kind of inhabits.
Got it.
A lot of times it's people who are working with oxes, working with cattle, working with, trade and stuff like that. So
kind of like a great white shark where, you don't want to be necessarily swimming with one, but they're not going to necessarily eat you.
They're not going to necessarily seek you out unless you're in their vicinity.
Okay.
But I will say Yama-Uba does have some other things that she does. She also sometimes controls the weather, especially snow.
Like La Madremonte.
Very much so. Well, you can see a lot of correlations with a lot of folklore in different cultures. There's sometimes some crossovers. But you see, she has caused snow, and there is some children's stories of Yama-Uba where the village hated her specifically for the weather. Anytime something would descend from the mountain, like snow or, big storms or things like that, they would blame Yama-Uba. Or anytime there's misfortune in the village, they would blame Yama-Uba.
Okay.
So she kind of, unfortunately, gets like a catch-all of like all the misfortune that people have. They're like, oh, Yama-Uba caused this.
Yeah.
And it's like, she didn't do that probably. She's just living in her hut,
Yeah.
But Yama-Uba definitely does mostly kill men.
Okay.
But the fact that she eats them after she kills them brings my rating up a little bit more, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And has there been any recent attacks where they're like, I know there's not a ton of things on there's not a ton of animals on like in Japan,
in a mountainous setting in Japan.
I'm trying to think, like, do they have wolves?
I don't think they have wolves.
So if you find someone just completely gutted,
they might have some, like big cats or things like that.
Let me look it up. I'm gonna look it up right now. Give me a second.
So the issue with a lot of these demons or dark deities in Japanese culture, that I found at least, is it's really hard to find translated material on these particular deities. I haven't found any recent kind of like reports of it, but I feel like it's not something that Japanese small communities would publicly put out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the people who are encountering Yama-Uba are these small villages that are outside of like the main areas that live up in the mountains, that live in the wilderness, that live in these dense areas. Are you seeing any?
Yeah, so tons of snakes.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. The snake's not going to gut
spiders,
a wild boar.
the Japanese wild boar, pufferfish, wild boar could do it.
Yeah.
Another snake, habu snake, mountain leech, mamushi snake.
These are all snakes that are just going to bite you.
Asian hornet. Brown bears. Brown bears. So there you go. That's a yep, look at him. He's cute. So yeah, that looks like it.
But the thing is, though, it's not necessarily that these people that are getting killed by Yama-Uba, they aren't necessarily getting ripped to shreds. Like, if you get attacked by a bear, you are going to be literally just destroyed.
Yeah.
Unrecognizable. Yama-Uba is more like delicate than that. I feel like she's like the type that's going to cut you up and then put you in a food or eat.
So it's going to look like a murder?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I could definitely see.
Now, do you know that for a fact, or you just is that like
well,
what
that's
you're
kind
thinking?
of what I gathered a little bit is that she's not ripping people to shreds.
Okay.
You know, because most of the time it's in her house. Like, she's lured you into her house, or she's lured you into the wilderness. But interestingly enough, so there are some people that believe that Yama-Uba is the reason why there are so many deaths in Aokigahara suicide forest.
Ooh.
They believe that she is luring these people into the wilderness, and when they get there, she kills them by sucking the blood out of them and making it look like a suicide.
Wow.
Now, if you live in Japan and you've heard something different, please let us know.
Yeah,
because
these are just things we find on the internet. Like, let's be real. Like, if you're a Japanese person, please comment. I'll pin it. You know, just like let us know something that we don't know about this.
Yeah, like I said before, it is really hard to find translated material on these deities and demons.
Sure.
Because obviously I do not read Japanese, so I have to trust the translations to a certain degree, and I also have to trust the people who have been able to read the transcripts or the original documents.
I definitely don't believe she's attacking the people that commit suicide.
Aokigahara.
No,
I don't think
that's
so
not
either.
happening.
But
you know, it's more believable to think that she's the one, like, maybe convincing them or luring them.
But she's not necessarily ever been known.
She's not really into that.
Yeah, she's never been known
that's
to
not it.
really, like, convince people to kill themselves. Otherwise, she would have done that herself.
Yeah.
You know?
Touchy subject.
It is a touchy subject. But it's, you know, there have been plenty of theories, though, that there is some kind of demonic entity in Aokigahara that is, you know, creating this mass suicide hub. The fact that, you know, they have to put up warning signs at the entrance of the park.
Yeah.
Saying, like, here is help for, you know, if you're feeling this way, please do not go in here if that's how you're feeling. But then there have been people who've said that, you know, they knew people who went into Aokigahara who were not suicidal, but then they had ended up committing suicide.
Yeah, I feel like Aokigahara is almost like a separate episode of this.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, if we could find any information and be as respectful as possible about it, obviously, you know.
Yeah.
It's people committing suicide.
Oh, absolutely.
So
it's a very dark topic, but it is very intriguing to try to decipher what is causing this phenomenon over there. Because what was it about? There was some kind of natural reason why some.
Yeah, it was like a magnet.
Yeah.
Like magnetization, like in the earth. That was, I don't know. It's just another something that we gotta like look up and read. But it was like a scientific reason.
Yeah, there is a scientific reason that some people believe as to why it causes a change in your brain waves.
Yeah,
in
something like that.
But we'll talk about Aokigahara in another episode. But it is worth mentioning that some people do believe that Yama-Uba did cause some of that destruction, but I don't think that's her main jam. She's much more. She's not going out of her way to cause damage. She's just she's a lot like the witch from Jack and Jill. You know?
Sure.
where the kids wander off the path where they're supposed to.
Jack and Jill? No, Jack and Jill, Hansel and Gretel,
Hansel and Gretel.
I'm like, what are you doing?
Yes.
Where are you? I was like, Jack and Jill, they just fell.
Yes. Hansel and Gretel. Excuse every Jack and Jill reference I've made. I got them mixed up, but yes. But yes. So Hansel and Gretel, you know how the
My
witch.
wife.
The witch.
Yeah.
And
Candy House.
Yes, because they got.
It would lure me.
Well,
I've always said that.
But that's the thing is they went off the path and they basically entered her territory.
Yeah.
It wasn't like she was waiting at the road for them, being like, "You want candy?" It was, it's the same way with Yama-Uba. She's not waiting at the road for these people. She's waiting for them to get off the path and kind of stumbling upon her area.
Yeah, like a bear trap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or like how a spider is when, the fly lands in her web.
Yeah.
She's like, cool, you're mine now. And so.
Yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily say that's like super malevolent. However, if you do have a spider web and, you catch things in it and kill them.
It's honestly a sad story, though. The fact that it's rooted in that history of people having to be put in these situations where they're having to give up a family member to survive.
Yeah.
That's
people
really
suck.
sad.
People can suck.
Well, societies can suck. That's, you can't really blame the families for having to do what they have to do to keep the family going,
Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess you're right.
But it is sad that these old ladies or newborns, maybe that's why she has a little bit of an affinity for newborns, is because sometimes newborns are the ones that get sacrificed by these families, remember?
Yeah.
So maybe because they can't fight back, but, it's like.
Yeah.
So,
what's your rating?
I'm going to give her a 4.
You're going to give her a 4?
Yes.
I'm going to give her a 5.
Same with La Madre Monte, because same rating.
Yeah, La Madre Monte was not a malevolent.
She did not eat people.
I'm giving her a 5.
But, see, with this, I feel like...
You just have sympathy.
I do have a little bit of sympathy.
You have sympathy for a woman sent out and, that becomes one of these. No. We're rating the hauntings. We're rating the, no. A 4 is pretty weird. I would at least give it a 5.
Okay, a 5. So
if you go to 5, I'll go to 6.
Okay, I'll give it a 5.
All right. It's cannibal. Well,
yeah,
kinda.
To a degree. I mean, she's not really human anymore once she becomes Yama-Uba.
Okay, but still, man-eater.
She's a man-eater. She kills newborns.
Spider web.
Yeah.
Just like
people falling into her trap.
Yeah, people falling into her trap.
And also, she's pretty frightening sounding how she looks wise when she transforms from being the old lady, which is kind of freaky. And I'll give her that.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I won't go any higher than a 5 though.
Okay. No, understood. I just think 4 is low. La Madre Monte is actually I wouldn't mind meeting La Madre Monte. I don't want to meet this. She's not gonna drown me. I'm a faithful man.
True.
I'm a faithful man. I've never cheated on you. She would know it though if I ever did. But yeah. So anyway, I'm thinking a 6 because of all of those reasons that I stated. And, you gotta give the haunt credit for the fact that it has survived for so long.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have to, it has a cycle. Like it's feeding, right? Maybe not in the literal, maybe not in the literal sense of the term, but it's definitely staying relevant in Japanese culture, and hauntings that stay relevant are usually the more malevolent ones.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the one that everyone want to talk about. I mean, why are we doing this podcast, right?
Absolutely.
So,
and especially because it's been thousands of years at this point that she, has been around before she was even documented.
Yeah.
So she's still like a tradition to be told to children and stuff.
Yeah.
And I totally would have been freaked out if I was a kid and my parents were like, Yama-Uba's going to come get you if you don't stop misbehaving. She's going to eat you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay,
Yeah, and she's used as a kind of a weapon for that too. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, there's an air of actual malevolence to this.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
this isn't just a kind of, and it deceives you. That's
Yeah.
another thing, is like going back to the very beginning of the episode. Like, she poses as a sweet old lady, which everyone trusts a sweet old lady.
Absolutely.
Everyone. I mean, if a sweet old lady's like, come to my house, I have candy, I am there before her. I'm like, what's the address? I'll Google Maps it, right?
It's true. JT
Like-
would have gotten eaten by the Hansel and Gretel witch.
Yeah, or the Jack and Jill witch, right?
Bruh. Anyways. But yeah, I definitely agree that there is definitely some malevolence. She wouldn't be considered a demon in Japanese culture if she wasn't malevolent in some sort.
No, for sure.
But-
For sure.
She's not like Bloody Mackenzie that's just coming for you all the time.
All the
you
time.
know?
All the time.
You gotta mess up in some way
Yeah.
to get to Yama-Uba.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
JT gives her a 6. I give her a 5. I think that's fair.
I think that's an extremely fair rating.
Yeah. And if you are from Japan, please tell us more about your ghosts and
for
your
sure.
stories and stuff, because I feel like you don't get the true essence of these folk tales until you have someone from the country tell you them.
For sure. And that's like an exciting thing about doing this podcast series, is that, with the Most Haunted City on Earth, our other podcast, like, we know everything down pat,
Yeah.
but because it's where we're from. But we, with this podcast, it's like we're going around the world here. And so we're opening up questions, and we're opening up, comments about these spirits. If you're familiar with them, like extremely familiar, even if you're not Japanese and you wrote a massive, paper.
Your PhD. If you
Yeah,
are
yeah.
if the guy who wrote the PhD on Yama-Uba in Colorado, if you're listening to this, I would like to talk to you, because
Heck yeah.
it was extensive.
Yeah, we'll do an interview with you, put you on the Patreon.
Yeah, right.
All right.
But yeah,
Cool.
I think that was a fun episode. I think
For sure.
Japanese culture, like we said, is just so interesting. And a lot of Asian folklore is just so intricate and fascinating.
Yeah, like the pachong.
The pachong in
Love the
Indonesia. Yeah, it's so you can dig so far, but yeah. I would love to talk more about, some different Japanese, Korean demons, all those. So also, if you have any particular entities you want us to do a deep dive into, please let us know. Because really, the ones we pick are kind of just ones that we're personally interested in.
Yeah.
And so...
But if there's some we don't know about, like some from your hometown, we'll do
yeah,
them.
absolutely.
There's a haunting from, something or other, Kansas. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so if you aren't already following us on social media, please go ahead and do that. We're over on TikTok as The Savannah Underground, and also on Instagram as just Savannah Underground. And then also, if you do want to get more content regularly, you want to see episodes way before they come out to the rest of the public. If you want to get really cool merch, you want to get shout outs and stuff, check out our Patreon. Thank you guys to those who already are patrons on that. We do really appreciate you guys.
For sure.
And we have lots of fun content coming on over there. So you can find us at patreon.com/Savannah Underground.
Absolutely.
But JT, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
No, I think we're good to go.
Alrighty. Well, this was fun. Next episode we'll have coming to you next week, and we'll have lots of more creepy, malevolent spirits in the future. So with that, my name is Madison Timmons.
I am JT Timmons.
And stay spooky, y'all.